put on some music that won't get me copyrighted, and we're gonna jump right into it. It is Saturday on the cusp of midnight, and you can ask me a question. Ask me any questions, as long as it's family friendly, and as long as you're not bombarding me with questions. Then we're all good. So yeah, uh, yes, I need to shave. I don't want to. We'll see how the questions go. But yeah, it's ask me a question format. So let's get right into it. And I know there's no one currently in the chat room. This is sort of for the benefit of people watching this on replay. Um, because I don't want it to be dead air when people are watching this on dead play, or they'll stop watching it. So that's what we're doing. Just fix the chat filter, so I should be seeing everyone. What's up, Carlton? So yeah, today's ask me any question format. I'm not gonna stay up long. I want to get up early so I can go to this Asian food festival tomorrow. So I want to get up early so I can work out, and also I want to watch a film with the Mrs. with Mrs. Contrarian. So uh, gonna try to go to bed at a decent time. Try. So what's up? What's up, baby Mahal? I was thinking of a topic, but I just decided to do ask me anything to make it easy. Although I'm not sure if that's the best idea at midnight. We'll see, because you know how I feel about the trolls that come out past midnight. Uh, but let me fix the lighting. And did I run today? Oh, of course, every day, man. I I feel bad anytime I don't run. The days that I don't run, I feel horrible. Not like I feel horrible like health wise. Like I feel horrible. Like I feel guilty that I didn't do it. So yeah, definitely ran. I feel bad though. I wanted to do a dual run today. I wanted to run twice, and so I still kind of feel bad that I didn't do a second run today. I'll put on some music. I guess I'll put on anime music again. Uh, I had to close my window because the little the little Pookies and Ray Rays right living next door are blasting their fucking music at midnight as if they don't have neighbors trying to you know go to bed or something. You know, like normal people. So um so they're annoying. So did your allergies act up when you're running outside? Not really. If anything, because I have hay fever, I think the fact that I'm outside every day has actually mitigated my hay fever. And the reason I know this is because when I was living briefly with my grandmother last year, uh, there's different pollen in her area in a specific region. I was getting shortness of breath where she lived, and I didn't immediately wash up after I ran outside, so all that stuff got into my eyes and my mouth. So I was actually having like a sort of an anaphylactic response to it, or it seemed like it seemed like an anaphylactic response because of my hay fever. So I had to take, some anti-allergy medication, and yeah, it was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. Like it was getting like like eyes was swelling and all that sort of stuff. Sort of like if you remember the movie Hitch with Will Smith. It wasn't as bad as he was in Hitch, but I was showing some swelling and puffiness, similar to how he was having that anaphylactic shock to eating seafood in the movie Hitch. So yeah, uh, what's up, what's up, Erkin? Um, yeah, I remember that scene. That was funny. He's like, no, no, I'm okay. And his face, his face was looking like Martin after he boxed with Tommy the Hitman Hearns. um, yeah, so and just to let everyone know, today is Ask Me Anything Saturday. However, that does not mean that you can come here and troll. I'm still gonna block you if you come here and troll. And also, what I want to say, also, if you're coming here and you're looking for a friend, that's not going to happen with me. I'm not here to be your friend. But if you want to say something reasonable or ask me something reasonable, that's all cool. Today is the only day you can get away with asking me something without me asking you to drop a super chat or a super sticker. Any other day, I'm gonna ask for a super sticker if you're asking me questions that aren't germane to the topic at hand. But on asking anything days like today, every question is okay to ask as long as it's family friendly, of course. Family friendly. That is the key. It has to be family friendly. If it's not family friendly, it will be ignored. So just want that to be clear. Have I tried Chinese dumplings? Oh yeah, of course. Um, I've had the fried dumplings. Then I had the steamed dumplings. Um, I've even had a Chinese bun. I guess that I don't think that counts as a dumpling, or that might be a type of dumpling. I don't. What's up, Monlit? What's up, brother? Um, Let me pin this for everyone. That is my Cash App. If anyone wants to donate to the cause, $ Just A Contrarian. It is pinned to the chat room for anyone who wants to contribute to my channel. Also, t-shirts will be on the way. Someone was asking me about t-shirts 2.5 years ago, and I said, bro, I can't. There's no point in me doing merch yet. I'm not monetized, and if I'm not monetized, I can't even like promote it through the channel. Now that I am monetized, I can actually promote my merch. You will know when the merch is available because you're gonna see me wearing the t-shirt. So just be forewarned. I Once you see me wearing my Just A Contrarian t-shirt, it will be available for sale. So that that will be coming soon, and that's what she said. But but no, seriously, look out for the Just A Contrarian t-shirts. They will be coming out soon. It will be one with basically the logo and the title of the channel. And then if those sell, then I might come up with some other stuff. So we'll see. I'm just gonna try and say hi, Moonlit. She's I love Hakao. What's Hakao? I don't know what that is. Is that a type of dumpling, Mrs. Contrarian? By the way, guys, uh, so I haven't said this on or the live stream before, but so my actual last name, me and Mrs. Contrarian, the actual last name is actually, turns out it's actually a Filipino word as well. So, but it's not pronounced the same in Tagalog. So it's a constant source of humor for us when they pronounce it in the Filipino way. Just saying. Um, but yeah, let me get to the music. I'm still deciding if I want to play anime music or some kind of classical. Classical it is. Double A says big up to you. Thank you, Double A. So guys, like, so for people new to the channel, or you guys who have returned to the channel, you know what it is. So with Ask Me Anything, if you got some nerdy questions for me, I love nerdy questions. Oh yeah, shrimp dumplings. Okay, that's why I haven't eaten them, because you know I don't eat you know I don't eat seafood, baby. So last time I ate well, excluding fish, I do eat fish, but excluding like uh ex, ex, excluding like fin fish, like regular, what we consider regular fish, or fin fish or scaly fish, whatever. Excluding that, I don't eat seafood. So the last time I actually ate seafood was actually 11 years ago, because I lost a bet with my Cambodian friend. Um, I forgot what our bet was about, but she said if I lost, um, I had to eat a bunch of food she selected for me, a bunch of seafood. So we went to this all you can eat Chinese buffet, and she got all this stuff for me to eat. So I actually did get to try some things that I've never had before. Like I tried oyster. I never had oyster before. I've had clams, but I had only eaten fried clams. I think she made me eat like steamed clams. Um, and she made me eat something else. Luckily, she didn't make me eat something like prawns or whatever, which are just like disgusting because they look like huge sea roaches. But I think she made me eat lobster. It was like, I think, like lobster, clam, oyster, some other stuff, but and shrimp, I think. But yeah, I hate seafood, particularly shellfish. I hate shellfish, and I hate um um what do you not sashimi, was the word for like octopi and squids. What do you call that stuff? I hate that stuff as well, because it all looks squishy and slimy. Looks like something out of a textbook for sexual transmitted diseases. But anyway, Moon says, "Oh, Mrs. Moon and I had Chinese dumplings last night at MBK. It was the ones with pork and hot broth inside the steamed dumpling. I haven't had that kind with the broth inside the dumpling. That that might be good. I haven't had that. But yeah, like I said, I had this Chinese bun, and I had a Chinese friend actually bring me one uh, on campus a long time ago. Like this was like, mm, this was actually like 19 years ago now. She she had a crush on me. Uh, she brought me some Chinese dumplings. She was like, "You okay eating pork?" I was like, "Yeah." I mean, I have a Muslim name, but I'm not Muslim. But in any case, um, yeah, I tore it up. Uh, the wifey says, "Moonlit, have you had Xiao Long Bao?" I love those two. They're next to Hakao on my list. What about salmon? Yeah, I'll eat salmon. Like I said, I'll eat fish like regular, just like regular fin fish. I think that's what you call like just everyday fish, like salmon, tuna, whiting, all that sort of stuff. I think it's just called fin fish, I guess. Yeah, I eat that, but not in the Filipino way where they still eat it with the head and the eyeballs. I'm not eating it. I'm not eating that. I think the wife, she has fixed me the fish before in that way, and I just didn't eat the head. Pause. 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 But yeah. Also, uh, uninformedly, is that a word? Uninformedly? I don't know. Well, anyway, unbeknownst to me, She told me I didn't know how to eat the fish correctly. Pause. Pause. Um, so she was showing me how to t- like take it apart with the fork and the whatever. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm a Gen X kid. I grew up on fish sticks and the Gordon's fish fillets. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Fish sticks, fish sticks, and the uh the the fries with the what, what they used to call the little the 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 crinkle, yeah, the crinkle cut fries. Y'all know that was like that was our thing as little kids in the 80s. Even in the early 90s, from the 80s to early 90s. Look, fish sticks and crinkle cut fries, man. What up? Like serious. I said, well, yeah, all that food is big here, but freshly farmed. One, at least one good thing about Filipinos, Mrs. Contrarian can correct me if I'm wrong here, but at least Filipinos don't eat fried insects. Thais love fried insects. I thought they only made that for tourists, but they actually like eating that themselves. I'm not going to eat fried insects unless unless I was in special forces. I'm not eating insects. I don't care. I don't care how much of a cultural delicacy it is in some country. I don't care. Like unless I'm getting like $1 million to do it, I'm not eating any bugs. Not knowingly anyway. But as far as I'm pretty sure there's parts of the Philippines where they probably eat fried insects though. Mrs. Contrarian can tell me. Do they eat fried insects, Mrs. Contrarian? He said I can't eat avocado. The texture is weird. Yeah, I don't like avocado either. Like I'm not a millennial, so I can't get the avocado. I've never put um I've never put that on my tacos or burritos, except once when I worked. So I've said this before on my live. So I've made my homemade guac um, when I used to work at this food cooperative on campus, on my college campus. There was a food cooperative, which is sort of like, basically everyone who works there owns owns the place. It's a it's a it's an experiment in food socialism, I guess you could call it. I don't know what else you can call it. So, and it's no longer there. When I checked last year, unfortunately, it was replaced. So I hope there's still a place where people can get their alternative foods and stuff like that. Because I used to love the place, which is why I started working there. But we made our own guac, and it was good. I put it on like on a tortilla. It was good. It was the first time I had guac because I never liked it. Because for one, it was green, so that was one reason why I didn't like it because it was green. Two is just because I didn't like the texture of it when I used to see it on Mexican food. It just looked disgusting. But when it was made fresh, the avocado and the lime, I think we squeezed lime into it. I almost said squoze. I've been watching too much Big Jaw. That episode, the whole crew is stupid when they were saying it's freshly squoze. But anyway, so yeah, the homemade the guac we made there, the co-op was actually tasty, but that was because it was fresh. Like otherwise I've not eaten guac or avocado. I think my mom had me try some avocado something or other, and it was ugh, yuck. Carlin says I'm not eating a fried roach, right? Or scorpions. They have like scorpions, ants, stuff like that there. What's up, J.A.C? Ms. Contrarian says they do eat a specific insect in the Philippine provinces called salagubang. I bet you there's some big nasty praying mantis looking type insect. If I was going to guess, is this something like a praying mantis or beetle type bug? I'm guessing. Now, like I said, if you go special forces, you probably are going to eat bugs. Just saying. But you do Army Special Forces. I don't know about the other special forces like SEALs or SWIC or combat controllers or P- PJs or Raiders, the Marsoc Raiders or any of those guys. But I know Army Special Forces, oh, you're gonna eat some bugs. And I think it's part of the SEER school, the SERE school. I think it's probably where you would probably have to eat bugs as part of Special Forces. Mama says I wouldn't eat roaches ever, yet I've tried most fried creepy crawlies except tarantula, water bugs, and roaches. Aren't water bugs and roaches the same thing? I used to, because my grandma used to say, "Oh, we got some water bugs in the house," and I always thought that was just a nice way of saying you got roaches without saying roach, since there's several species of roaches, of cockroaches. I just assume like water bug is just another way of talking about a cockroach without saying cockroach. Like, oh yeah, we have some water bugs, because it sounds better water bug than saying cockroach, because cockroach makes it sound like you live in a dirty house. Water bug just sounds like, oh, there happens to be some bugs in the house. They're like water, but they're roaches. Sugar leaf ants are delicious, deep fried. Same with a few other things. Scorpion is not bad. I'm not eating anything that creeps and crawls. That's why I don't eat shrimp, and that's why I don't eat prawn or lobster or crab, because crustaceans are part of the same family as insects, the arthropods, and then the insectivora. Wait, is it? I always get family, class, phylum, and order mixed up. Um, arthropod might be the class or the phylum. I don't remember, but anyway, the insectivora family and the crustacean and the crustacea family are both part of the arthropods. So no thanks. They're bugs. Some that just in the water, some that on land. Clara says there are places in the Philippines where they regularly gather food out of the trash to cook. Bugs are a step up from that, in my opinion. Eh, yeah. So yes, so there are towns built around what do you call them, around trash, um, around trash dumps. Yes, um, and that people will take um, food. What's up, Agatha? Will take food from those trash sites and recook it. Uh, I really can't say the insects are worse than that or better. I think they're equal. I think they're both an equally bad option for someone of a Western mindset. From someone from the Western world, I think the option between recooking tossed away food. By the way, the food that they gather out of the trash isn't stuff that's already went rotten. They gather food that has been like already eaten. People have already started eating and didn't finish the rest of it, and then they recook it, stuff like that. But they don't eat rotten food. Like they know better than that. Like they know it will get them sick. But yeah, they'll gather food. They'll gather food that's already been eaten, partially eaten. I mean, we literally had my wife and I literally had kids come up to us and ask us for our food when we were going, I believe, to a museum or something, or wherever we were coming from, which was ironic because I was looking for a place to throw away our leftovers because I didn't want to drag it with us into the building, and I knew we weren't going to eat the rest of it. So it was actually a good thing that they came and asked us for food. I gave them the food. I think I gave them some money too. If I Mrs. Contrarian did I give them money too as well when I gave them my leftovers? I can't remember. But yeah, I mean, so some of these people who live near these trash sites will recook food that's already been people already started eating, right? But bugs aren't necessarily a a a better option because bugs, typically scrounge around and think in areas that aren't very hygienic. Now it's different if you have like lab raised insects. Like you can like you can farm and you can raise and you can farm insects, right? Just like you can raise them in a lab where they're pretty healthy bugs to consume or to do research upon, because we did research on cockroaches um, in one of my uh, in one of my uh, psychobiology classes. So it was a neuroethology lab to be more specific. One says cobra is cool when fried up with spices and sauce with sticky rice. Yeah. I'm not also eating any reptiles. I think I can't remember or not if I tried frog legs, because I think I tried them at a Chinese buffet once. I think, but that's as far as I went. I couldn't try to. I wasn't going to try a turtle or anything like that. I can't eat. I can't eat Michelangelo, Donatello, Leonardo, and Raphael. Um, and I just can't imagine it would taste good. Mm. Carlton is laughing. Melissa's water bugs here is like a roach the size of your foot, effing creepy as hell. Yeah, so like I said, they're roaches. Uh, that's what I don't know the distinction people make between water bugs and cockroaches. It's just many cockroaches of different sizes. To me, the creepy cockroaches are those cockroaches down in like Texas and in the deep south and in Mexico that fly. I don't want flying cockroaches like in Texas and these other places. We don't have those here. The worst thing we have on the East Coast is that we have locusts, and they all have different breeding years of breeding. Some come out, I think, some come out like every 7 years. Some come out every I don't know 10 years. I don't know. They're all different. Each one that has a different year where they release are different species. So, but they're just disgusting because they're everywhere. I'm sure they provide a smorgasbord for the birds and small rodents and stuff like that. But when they're all in your hair and everything, like the last time there was a huge brood of these locusts, like I started to notice they pee on you. I did not know I did not know locusts like pee on people or defecate on them, whatever it is. I think it's both a combination of pee and poop since they don't have separate specialized equipment down there. So they will just go bathroom on you while they're flying around, hovering around. And they fly around blind as bats. So the funny thing is, when I was going for my runs, it, they were less bothersome than when I was just walking around. Like when I'm walking around, they were actually more of a problem than when I was running, which is weird. Maybe because when they see me running, they might think something is pursuing them and avoid me. Doomer Diary says, "What are your thoughts on a modern woman?" Can you make it more specific? Because if you're not aware, I've addressed modern women in many different videos and live streams. I'm it, it, if I were to say my overall thought and summary is that you should avoid them. That's what I think. I think men should avoid modern women as much as possible. Um, as far when talking in the capacity of like romantic relationships. But if you have a more of a specific question, I can answer that better. Moon says, "What about crab lobster, or is it a texture thing or a look thing?" It's both. I don't like how it. I don't like the texture, and I don't like how they look. They like lobsters and crabs literally look just like huge bugs. They have multiple legs. They have an exoskeleton. Bugs. Like I said, both the insectivore family and the crustacea family both fall under arthropods. They're both just bugs. So, yeah, I'm not eating creepy exoskeleton things with multiple legs. I need something that had fur and walks like I need something that's if it's not a mammal or a bird, I'm not eating it. Unless it's fish. I'll eat fish, but other than fish, if it's not a mammal or a bird, I'm not eating it. I find crabs and lobsters they're basically like physiologically they're not much different from a cockroach. And like I said, because I've done since I've done vivisection on both crayfish and on cockroaches, I know that there was not much of a difference between a crayfish and the lobster. I mean, sorry, the crayfish and the cockroach. And we work with two species of cockroach. We worked with the American cockroach, or I guess more specific, yeah, I guess, yeah, the American cockroach is a specific species, and we worked with the ones, like I said, that come from like Texas and Mexico, the flying ones. Then we worked with crayfish. The crayfish is basically just a mini lobster. So when you look at their anatomy, the cockroach and the crayfish were pretty much the same thing. So I find them all disgusting. They're just bugs. Like people, and as a matter of fact, it's funny that lobsters are considered like nice thing. It used to be back in the day when Americans first arrived in the part of the East Coast that is New England. There was plenty of lobster around. They used to call it poor man's chicken. Uh, Ms. Control said, Claire's just, let's call it Pat Pag. How did we get to talking about eating bugs? Ask me anything can go anyway. It's funny. Partner says, give me recooked food all day over bugs. I don't know, Carlton, though, because this, like, the the recooked food is coming out of, it's literally coming out of the trash. It's either coming out of the trash or it's coming like like from restaurants. But these people who live like there's actually like a place that's built into a whole like a whole little village or whatever. Mrs. Contrarian can tell you better. That's built into this trash dump. And like I said, a lot of the food they get is straight from the refuse. I I don't think I could do it. Some of them even set up food vendors have even set up shop as food vendors selling this recooked trash. And if you don't know any better, like you like if you're just one of these adventurous people that love trying street food and you don't know any better, you might end up eating this stuff. That's why you have to be careful with street food in Southeast Asia because there's really great street food in Southeast Asia, but then there's really bad food in Southeast Asia as well. I think the worst offenders when it comes to street food, though, I'm probably gonna say is Indonesia because like their counterparts over in India, a lot of the hygiene of their food is very questionable. So, what do you thoughts on incels. Dude, you keep asking general questions. Ask a specific question. It's sort of a pet peeve of mine that I don't like vague questions. If you have a specific uh, belief about modern women or incels, just ask it. Don't diddle around with it. Like, ask a specific question. I really don't like vague questions. To me, vague questions are just are like the equivalent of a raw shock test where you're just trying to probe people's like ideas. Like I don't like that. I find it a bit annoying. Like ask a specific question and I'll answer it to the best of my ability. But I don't like vague questions because to me, when people ask vague questions, it's like they're giving you a Rorschach test which is a type of projection test. Basically, a projection test is a device in clinical psychology and psychiatry where people try to just probe your your thoughts and beliefs, and I don't really like that. So Melissa says I like Sarchikon cold cuts. I don't know what Sarchikon is. Acorn fed from mountains and fields from the Iberian Peninsula, from Spain and France. It's like the best thing I've tried this year. Oh, acorn fed pork. Okay. Jay says I was reading in Cuba they are eating everything on the streets, including rats at times there. Oh, that's not the only place. You'll find that in other places too where they're eating rats and stuff like that. Again, places in India and Africa and uh and other parts of Latin America. I remember that was one of the things I always remember from Demolition Man when they went to the sewers and she offered him a hamburger. He was like, dude, he said, you just ate that hamburger? He's like, yeah, it's delicious. He said, do you see any cows down here? He said, where do you think they got that from? He said, those are rat burgers. And the lady looked embarrassed. He looked at her and he took another bite. He's like, good, it's a good rat burger. Yeah. Uh, and she smiled. But nah, yeah. Rats have often been a source of easy food. Now, here where I live, like if we ever, you know, got desperate, there are white-tailed deer everywhere around here. I would easily just buy a hunting bow and arrow and go to town because they're so used to our presence here that they don't instantly run away. So they would be easy to hit. Like because I say bow and arrow because you can bow hunting. This is not the season, but during the during the fall and I believe winter, it is bow hunting season anywhere in Maryland, including in the suburban areas. Like you don't have to be like in a designated area to go bow hunting here in Maryland because the deer here are considered a public nuisance. So they made it a law in Maryland that you can go then during bow hunting season you can go bow hunting anywhere. You can shoot down deer in your backyard with a bow. There's plenty. Unfortunately, I don't like venison, but like I said, if things got tough, I would get my deer bow. I mean my hunting bow, and go to town and just make some venison. He's ever try escargot? Snails good. Again, I don't eat bugs. That's the Canadian part of you, Jay. I'm not eating escargot. I, and I think some people just eat it just because they think that's what rich people eat. Warren Buffett eats Big Macs. That's what he eats. He does not like. Warren Buffett used to be the richest man in the world. He's still like in the top five. That man doesn't eat fancy food. He literally has a Big Mac every day. That would be me. Donald Trump. This dude loves McDonald's. He loves Big Macs. Remember, he thought he was doing a big thing when he threw dinners at the he threw dinners at the White House. He literally got them like Big Macs and fries. And I think McNuggets. I don't know. But I'm like, I could get down with this president. Like, I'll come there and have some Big Macs and fries at a big at a big swanky White House dinner instead of some nasty shit that I'm supposed to like because it's what rich people eat, like escargot and goose pate and all that nasty shit. Ugh, ugh. I don't like slimy food. I don't like slimy food. I don't like thing that came out that I don't like something that came out of an exoskeleton. Um, what else? Yeah, but yeah, I'm definitely not eating snails. That's literally look. They look like snot. Like I'm not eating something that looks like snot. Like yuck. One says stuff hits the fan scenario, but it used to squirrel, rabbit, ground fowl, and fish. Gotta get protein. I'm not good at foraging edible plants. Until that happens, I'm not eating that stuff. Like, there's no point in eating stuff that I dislike just for SHTF scenario. Actually, what is better to do is to do food storage, because depending on what sort of SHTF scenario it is, it might wipe out the local lot. It might uh, wipe out the local flora and fauna, especially like so like if it's a bug in scenario, because most HAT most stuff hits the fan scenarios are a bug in situation. So if you have the bug in, it's better to have water and food storage to last you at least 6 months, up to a year, right? So the only time you're gonna be foraging and hunting if it's the opposite, if it's a bug out scenario. In a bug out scenario, you're hitting, you know, you're either hitting the road or hitting the fields to get the hell out of Dodge and get to your um get to your alternative place where you can stay, whether that's in another state, whether it's out of the country, whether it's just like a remote thing, like if you got money, you maybe have a bunker. But if you're not, if you're not Mark Zuckerberg, who can afford to buy an underground bunker, then the next best scenario is to buy one of those crates, not a crate, but the one of those things, the dock, the stuff where they store all the stuff on the docks. You can buy those. They are really cheap, and you can retrofit them into a place to live inside of them. So that would be a good scenario where if you got to bug out of your house to a place that's less dangerous, you might want to do that. Buy one of those huge containers and turn it into a place to live. Otherwise, you should, as a as part of your bug out plans, you should always have a passport in case you need to get the hell out of the country, or at least out of the state, because all of those are possible in a SHTF scenario. But hunting and foraging should probably be that should not be your first option, because you're gonna expend more energy foraging and hunting than you would just acquiring food and water in your home for a scenario where you got to bug in. And again, like I said, in a certain scenario, it might wipe out the local flora and fauna, or the flora and fauna may be available, but they may be tainted for whatever reason the scenario began in the first place. So looking at all those, your hunter and gathering sort of uh, lifestyle that they might teach you in certain field craft and survivalist schools, that's not going to be your first option. Your first option is to acquire a lot of extra food and water that you can keep in your house, um, stored safely until it's safe to come out, and then you might have to go forage and hunt. But until then, you're gonna have to bunker in, and especially if you live within a city, if you live in the majority of people across the world live either in cities or nearby major cities. So hunting and gathering just really isn't going to be a likely scenario for most people. So your best bet is to collect water and food as much as possible up until that time where you may need it. Claris's frog legs genuinely do taste a lot a more like a more gamey chicken. So back in the day, the that great show on A&E, Mythbusters. So Mythbusters did a whole episode about different sorts of meats and whether they taste like chicken. And to no one's surprise, none of these things taste like chicken. Frog doesn't taste like chicken. Turtle doesn't taste like chicken. None of these other types of foods taste like chicken. They really don't. It, people always say that squirrel doesn't taste like chicken. Deer, none of these. I've had squirrel. It's disgusting. So my father used to trick me and my little sisters into trying wild game meat all the time. So that's why we're mistrusting of any sort of meat that we can't identify. Like we're very mistrustful of people giving us random pieces of meat without telling us what it is first. So yeah, squirrel, no. I mean, he gave us things like squirrel, uh, wild goose. Um, the only thing he didn't try to trick us with is bear, and I think that it would have been hard anyway because bear just the meat does not look like anything, does not look like red meat, and it doesn't look like chicken. So it would be hard to trick someone into saying bear's chicken or beef or something. But anyway, he tricked us with the squirrel. It was disgusting. So no, until such a day comes where I have to become a hunter gatherer, I rather just collect food like MREs and canned goods. MREs, canned goods, and different sorts of seeds and nuts, those sorts of things are perfectly are good for food, long term food storage. And you can get um, certain things to acquire a lot of uh, water as well. And if you're really about that life, I mean, you can set up a whole hydroponic situation in your home. If you got the space. So yeah, Carter says I never seen an insect poop. I didn't see it. You just felt it when it hit your head, like because if it just felt like like some little like a it felt like a drop of rain or something, like a raindrop. And I'm looking up, the skies are clear as hell, except for the damn locusts flying everywhere. I'm like, did that fucking insect just piss on me? And people were laughing because I was asking other people at the office and some of my family members online, and they was like, "Yeah, that happened to me too." I'm like, "Damn it, these damn!" I said, "It's bad enough that they're that we got this biblical plague of locusts everywhere, but they got the audacity to like piss on us too. Like what these locusts? They think they are Kelly. Locusts just flying around. Players wanna play, ballers wanna ball. I don't really care. None of that at all. I wanna piss on you. Yes, I do. Drip, drip, drip. Stop. Moses Claire soak them in apple cider vinegar overnight in the fridge, then marinate and deep fry with your own recipe. Ew. He said modern. He said I still have CD player in my Toyota, and people ask me what the f that is. I'm like, wait, let me show you a cassette tape. Actually, the thing is, cassettes have come back in vogue, Moonlit, over the past 10 years, past 15 years, really, because in Japan, uh, it had became like a retro thing, like somewhere between 10-20 years ago. It became a retro thing that people started using Walkmans again, the cassette Walkmans. So that has come back in play, and now people are, and now over the past 6 years, people have gone back to playing vinyl again. A lot of people miss the vinyl sound with the music, and so when I go to like um, Third Eye Comics, they have a separate store for music and games. So you got Third Eye Comics, which sells like comics, toy collectibles, and stuff like that. Then they have a second store for like uh, all sorts of role playing games, models, Halloween outfits, uh, graphic T-shirts, and music. And in there, they sell vinyl from like classic stuff as well as like current stuff right now on vinyl, and they sell the new and they're selling record players for the new vinyl. So yeah, vinyl has come back in vogue too for a lot of people that don't know. But like I said, the cassettes never really died. They the market shrank for cassettes, but this but the hidden truth is cassettes actually never went away. It's just the market shrank so much that most people thought that the industry had died, but they never stopped making cassettes. Just like they really never stopped making vinyl. It just became a very niche crowd that bought them. But like I said, in Japan, it became really in vogue like 10, 15, 20 years ago, where they were still buying like the Walkmans and playing in the cassettes. Because one, is cheaper, and two, it is all like a lot of people just love having a hard copy of the favorite things that they love, because digital is never guaranteed. So it's always good to have that hard copy where you can always have access to your favorite music or your favorite movies or whatever. But he was saying modern women. That's what he was talking about. He was saying, "What do I think? What my thoughts on modern women is?" It was annoying me because he was just asking me vague questions, and I that is a pet peeve of mine when someone just says, "What are your thoughts on X, Y, or Z?" I'm like, ask a specific question. I think because I've been in college too long, I hate vague questions. But when someone just says thoughts on this, can you express that in a better better question format? Like it's just so vague. Like thoughts on rainbows. Like what about rainbows? Like that's annoying. Clara says Moonlit. I appreciate it. I don't eat them too often, but they're actually pretty good. He said like a last comment, being at least somewhat semi self sufficient with food is important. Carden says I saw some wild street food videos from India. Dang. So the thing about India, so the thing is, there's decent street food there, but I've already said to the wife, if we go there, I'm not eating any of the street food just because it'll be no way to tell the good from the bad. And the problem is that it is it's Indian content creators over there who purposely make make these videos for shock and awe, where they show like really disgusting stuff because they know it'll go viral and get a lot of click. It'll become they'll get a lot of clicks and views if they make videos showing like disgusting things. But they they don't realize that is a self-defeating thing. Like yes, they are making they're making um clickbait um, clickbait videos for people to watch, but you're destroying the street food industry there. Like there are a lot of uh, street vendors in India whose whole livelihood depends on people wanting to eat their food, but the problem is like India now has a reputation for having disgusting street food, and these content creators over there are exaggerating the how prolific you know um, the problem is with unhygienic street vendors over there, and destroying and by doing so destroying that industry, because there are some decent street food places there, but I wouldn't handle it. Like I will only like I'm so disgusted by Indian food, like I love Indian food, but over there, I would be so skeptical of their bad hygiene practices there that I will only eat at like a fine dining restaurant or McDonald's. McDonald's because they gotta they're beholden to the hygiene standards of a McDonald's franchise, and also because deep fried food kills off germs. But otherwise, I'm thoroughly disgusted with Indian street food or Indian food generally over there. Whereas I trust it here, but over there I wouldn't because I don't trust their hygiene standards. So those content creators making those street food videos are destroying the food industry for India. I mean, we already know the people themselves have a reputation for stinking. Then you add to it the unhygienic food practices. Like that's not a good look. Clarence says, "Damn, dude, you think Indonesia is worse than India regarding street food?" No, I didn't say Indonesia is worse. I said I think that Indonesia is the worst in Southeast Asia as far as the reputation of their street food. And I was saying it's similar to their cousins in India because a lot of a lot of Indonesian culture stems from India because you know in earlier times India, Malaysia, and parts of the Philippines were all under Hindu kingdoms, right? This is why when Columbus traveled traveled to the Caribbean, he thought he landed in Indonesia and called the people Indians, right? So Moon says love compound bow hunting and slingshots. Yeah, I'm about to buy a slingshot. I found a cheap one, a cheap like tactical slingshot. The bow is gonna be a simple. It's gonna a simple hunting bow. I'm not getting one of those really complicated ones. I don't see the point of getting one of those really complicated ones. Like if the bow is gonna be more complicated than using a rifle, I might as well just get my hunting license and get a rifle because a rifle would be simpler to use than some of those compound bows. I believe in simplicity. Like if you're using a bow for the purposes of hunting or maybe even as as a tactical as a as a secondary weapon in tactical measures, it makes sense to have a simplified bow, not one of those complicated ones used for sports for for um one of those complicated sport bows, like a simple one. Simplicity is usually the best. Jay says, "Have a good night too." Agnes says, "I traveled to Japan and Taiwan when my sister was graduating." Oh, I traveled to Japan and Taiwan when my sister was graduating. I made sure to order my KFC and McDonald's. I don't trust eating the host country food. No, no, Japan and Taiwan, I definitely trust their food. Japan and Taiwan are like basically like first world countries in in East Asia, particularly Japan. Japan is definitively a first world country in East Asia. That's one of the great things is the way that they balance being both a first world nation while also being a traditional Asian country at the same time. The way that they balance that is remarkable, and I totally trust the food when I'm in Japan. Actually, Japan has one of the best known street foods particularly in Osaka. Osaka, I haven't been to Osaka yet, but Osaka is known for its incredible street food. There's a whole Netflix thing that me and Mrs. Contrarian watched on street foods in Asia. Osaka was there. Philippines was there, but Cebu. I have not been to Cebu yet. My wife has. Um, I think several times. Cebu is known for its great street food in the Philippines. Um, in Thailand, it was I believe Bangkok. It wasn't Pattaya. No, it wasn't Pattaya. It was yeah. Bangkok was known for its street food. Um, and I can attest to that. Although I didn't eat anything adventurous like scorpions, anything. I just ate some simple chicken pad thai, and I think my wife had shrimp pad thai or something. But I had chicken pad thai, and you can get it mixed shrimp and chicken pad thai. I just got chicken because I don't like seafood. But I had that, and I had some street food in Bali, but it was vegetarian. That's why I trusted it because again, I'm not eating meat that I cannot identify. So I got some street food in Bali. But yeah, it's places all over Asia that's known for great street food. Like I said, Osaka, Japan, Cebu, Philippines, Bangkok, Thailand, um, and there's about three other really good places. One of them might have been in India, but I can't remember which city. One that says, "Imagine eating a McGriddle in the Oval Office. That would be so American." Trump is look. Trump probably gonna have a McGriddle this morning. Why? He's probably gonna have a McGriddle this morning. I don't like McGriddles though. I did just because I don't like pancake type. Well, no, I like pancakes, but I don't want a pancake sandwich because that's basically it's a pancake sandwich. I like the sausage biscuit. Pause. But the sausage biscuit is dope. With the hash brown, that's my clutch. McDonald's breakfast. I don't the hot the hot cakes with the sausage wasn't really my thing back in the day. Remember when McDonald's had everything in styrofoam, so it was always scratchy sounding. I hated that. Now, for some reason, there's a bunch of Gen Xers and millennials who have a sort of nostalgia for the McDonald's breakfast when it was still in styrofoam because they miss hearing the little scratchy sounds when they ate. I hated that sound. It was so irritating to hear the scratchiness of the styrofoam. And I just plus the other thing that pissed me off is like if I'm at McDonald's, I want a burger and fries. I don't want goddamn pancakes and sausage. Now the sausage biscuit and hash browns is dope. So I'll eat that any time of the day, which is why they made remember in some places they made the breakfast menu an all day thing. But it was like only certain things like the McGriddle, the sausage biscuit, the hash brown, the egg McMuffin, stuff like that. I would I would be starving if I hadn't already just ate some fried rice earlier that I made. I would be starving talking about this right now. This McDonald's gets me hungry. So, but yeah, I can totally see uh, Donald Trump eating a McGriddle in the morning in the Oval Office. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be something no one's ever done before. No other president ever ate a McGriddle in the Oval Office except for me. He's not. But um, Obama didn't have bad taste either, but he liked the fast casual food. He liked Shake Shack and I think he went to both Shake Shack and Five Guys. And remember he bought it on his own dime. He brought it back to the White House for his cabinet. Like the whole he bought like sandwiches for the whole cabinet. Even though that was obviously like a yes, that was a completely staged scenario because he one of the things he complained about is as president he couldn't go out and do normal things. So that was probably one of the things he went to do, pretending he could still do normal things. But I remember that was something he complained about. Was like when you're president, you can no longer do normal things. I'm like, well, duh, you're a president. You're not going to do normal things anymore. It's like becoming a prime minister or becoming a king. Like, yes, you no longer do normal things anymore. But if that is one of the things to miss, I'm good. So I mean, I don't care if I can't go myself as long as I send someone to get me my Happy Meal with my Pokemon cards. I'm good. I don't care if I get it myself or someone else gets it for me. Just make sure it's still hot, or heads will roll, and then I will enact um the prima. What was it? Prima prima nocta. America needs a prima nocta. Let me stop. I'm tripping. Clarence says I've heard oyster is good. I don't think I could handle that texture though. Yeah, it was 11 years ago, so I don't remember how it was. I just remember it was slimy. To me, like I said, all to me, um, seafood, like I said, except for fish, is either slimy or like has that little like texture, like it's like cheap fish. Like that's why mudfish. They used to use mudfish as a stand-in for crab meat. Like fake crab meat was mudfish. The problem with fake crab meat, because sometimes people who had a shellfish were allergic to shellfish, they would buy the fake crab meat. But the problem is sometimes they mixed in real crab meat with the fake crab meat, so people could still get you know have a response to it. But typically, the fake crab meat was like mudfish. But that's what, like I said, like to me, like shellfish was just like really the 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 flesh resembled like like really nasty fish, whereas stuff like clams and oysters and stuff like that was just slimy. So I couldn't. I mean, she tried. She did try to dress it up for me. Like even though I lost the bet, she did try to make it tasty for me. She's like here, and she dabbled some hot sauce and vinegar on it and stuff like that to try to make it more palatable. But I was a good soldier, so I lost the bet on a technicality. By the way, I lost this bet on a technicality, and I was like, all right, well, I lost, even though it was on a technicality, so I'll man up. So I ate the stuff, and she was like, "You think you want to try this stuff again?" I was like, "No, I'm just doing it because you're making me." She's like, "That's it." And, she was like, "Oh, that's a shame." She's was laughing, but yeah. She said, "I'm not eating any of those kind of creatures. I think they're so disgusting." Sorry, you and I both, Agatha. You and I both. I'm not. No, KFC and McDonald's for me as well. Now, I'm adventurous when it comes to like how food is prepared, but I'm not adventurous on what type of foods to eat. Like if it's chicken, beef, pork, fish, I'll try them in a variety of ways in which they can be fixed. That's cool. So I'm a foodie in a sense that I'll try those things in different ways in which they can be made, but I'm not a foodie in a sense that I'll try anything that's considered edible. I just won't do that. I'm not that I'm not that adventurous. Melissa says exactly. Only chicken tastes like chicken. He said, "Thank you." Somebody finally agrees. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Definitely, like I said, MythBusters. They tried. I'm pretty sure you can find an episode here on YouTube, or you can go to their. You can go to the streaming service wherever A&E is streamed. Probably, I'm guessing A&E is probably either streamed on Hulu or Prime Video, one of those two. But I'm pretty sure you can find that episode where they taste all these different types of meat and compare it to chicken. And surprise, surprise, like I said, none of them taste like chicken. The only thing that tastes like chicken is pheasant. And the reason why is because literally pheasant is sort of like a wild is from where chicken evolved. Chicken evolved from a pheasant like bird. That's why they taste the same. But pheasant tastes exactly like chicken, just like a smaller version. It's actually like uh what do you call those hens? The Cornish hens. A pheasant is like a a pheasant is like a tiny Cornish hen. Agnes is so true. I can't identify the meat. I do not eat it. Yep, preach. Claire says, although to be fair, I've heard that if you get sick from foreign street food, it doesn't necessarily mean it was unhygienic. It may have been so foreign to you gut microbiome. Well, so there can be different reasons why you can get sick. One is obviously it was prepared in a unhygienic manner. The other reason is that if it's a watery if it's a watery food like soup or something like that, you might get sick because you're not used to the local water supply. This is why when you're in a in a new country, you don't drink the local food, you don't drink the local water, and you don't use the local water when you're brushing your teeth. You use bottled water, including brushing your teeth. Um, and if you order out, like if you're at a restaurant, you tell them no ice in your, you tell them no ice in your drinks because that ice will be Now, so in the Philippines, like even the local people don't drink the water because it's unsanitary. So pretty much everyone uses filtered water in the Philippines, except for like street people on the streets. Like they still consume um, the local water, which is unsafe. But pretty much because everyone is known throughout Metro Manila that the water is unsanitary, everyone uses filtered water. Like there's a water delivery service that comes daily to deliver people fresh water in these huge anyone's in the Philippines knows in these huge containers. Like you can have them delivered daily, and I'd be feeling so bad because these guys are like these are young dudes, and they're like real like this is laborious work in the yeah man it's like somewhere between 90 to 110 degrees every day, not to mention not to mention the the heat index and the all that stuff, and they're delivering all these huge containers of water all over like parts of the all over different parts of Metro Manila. It's about 16 different cities in Metro Manila for people who don't know. And you see these delivery service and outside of Metro Manila in the provinces as well. These people so it's even worse in the provinces because they got a longer distance to travel to get to people, and they drop like every time I see them, I will always give them a nice tip. But what I started doing with my wife is that we bought a Brita filter. By the way, if Mrs. Contrarian is still here, I hope you've replaced that filter recently. But I just bought a Brita filter, um, and I've not had problems. But another way you can get sick from the food is from the water in which it is prepared. So that is a problem. But usually you're going to get sick from the street food because of unhygienic practices. And like I said, in some of these places, they are known for unhygienic food, like places like Indonesia and India and other places like that. Shoot, even here in Washington D.C., there when my stepmom worked for the EPA, they had a huge report talking about how unhygienic the food was in the DC area. So, for people who've been to Washington D.C., there's the National Mall. National Mall is where you find like the Washington Monument and a bunch of memorials and stuff like that. And you got the on the National Mall, you got that huge place where everyone walks around and takes pictures and picnics and barbecues, all that good stuff. Anyway, there's a bunch of street vendors all along the streets um, in the National Mall, and what my grandmother was telling me was that the EPA found out that most of these people weren't washing their hands and that they would just pee in a water bottle instead of going to the bathroom because they don't want to leave their kiosk abandoned because sometimes they work solo or whatever, so they can't afford to go and abandon their kiosk during the day. So they literally stay there all day, piss in a bottle, don't wash their hands, and they're preparing their food. And she was like, she said it wasn't very hygienic. So if you think in a modern, so look how so if you're comparing that in a setting like Washington D.C. to third world conditions in somewhere like Mumbai, India, or New Delhi, you can imagine that those unhygienic practices will lead to people getting sick. So, classes depend on your state. You may be able to use a crossbow during bow season. I haven't checked in Maryland if crossbows are allowed, um, but like I said, because the deer literally come up to your house, you could just use a bow and arrow. You don't have to be particularly good with it because these white-tailed deer are literally everywhere. Like I literally see them every day when I go running. Like they're just out there. They don't care. They are a nuisance. I mean, they're so bad that they They are a constant um, nuisance for vehicles because they're like out on the streets, like because they have no natural predator to take them down. Like we have a few coyotes in the area, but they're not going to really attack full grown deer. They might attack fawns, but they're not really going to go after like big game like full grown bucks. So yeah, these you don't like uh, a crossbow might be overkill because like I said they're literally like you'll literally just go outside and they're eating right at the right across from your house at the bush. Like you could just be like, just like I said, if I loved venison, I would have been bow hunting years ago when I found out that you can do it right in on your own backyard. Like, but a crossbow isn't a bad idea though. Just a different way of operating, you know. And you even have tactical crossbows, which can be used for both self defense and for hunting. Like you know, some of the tactical crossbows actually have like I think an automatic quiver firing. I'm just gonna It's funny that you mentioned the Brita filter. I'm currently replacing it. Good, good. How I think you should be replacing it like every 2 to 3 months, baby. Just was that sub to you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Agnes says, thank you, Jasper, for your subscription. Yes, thank you. But yeah, like they got tactical bows for people who are interested. The only thing I would say is the tactical bow is for someone who may have legal problems getting a gun because a handgun would be cheaper than a tactical bow. I'm just gonna tell you right now, a handgun is probably gonna be cheaper than a tactical bow, or just getting a shotgun would be cheaper than getting a tactical bow. Some of those tactical bows are expensive. And you can get a regular crossbow, but you know the loading of the crossbows is a bit inconvenient. Like I think it's probably quicker just with a traditional hunting bow. You know, I think a regular hunting bow is like a compound bow and arrow set, like Moonlit mentioned, but not the kind. But don't if you're gonna get like a hunting bow and arrow, don't get the kind that's really made for sports for archery. Those are those are overly complicated. Like don't you don't need those if unless you are unless you are practicing for archery. Otherwise, make sure you're getting a hunting bow and arrow, which are much simplified than the sports bow and arrows made for archery. Some people who are really good in fieldcraft can even make their own bow and arrows, but I'm not. I don't have my fieldcraft skills are minuscule, so I would not be on a level of being able to craft my own bow and arrow. Although I know there are some people who probably could do so. I'm not doing that. My fieldcraft is not that hua. Okay. However, to reiterate what I said earlier about fieldcraft and survival skills, if if you are honing your fieldcraft and survival skills um, in the idea of being of prepping for possible uh, shucks hits the fan scenario, then I would say in most SHTF scenarios, usually the ideal situation is going to be that you're going to bug into your house for safety. The alternative option is that you're going to have to bug out, In both of those scenarios, hunting and foraging is not going to be your it's not going to be your first go to. In a bug in situation, which is going to be like I said, in most SHTF scenarios, the ideal situation is going to be you're going to bug in. In that situation, you need to have a lot of food and water stored in your house in that scenario where it can last you, say, up to 6 months, right? And by the way, you don't have to buy all that stuff at once. You can slowly acquire that over time as you have disposable income to do so, like buying you know, extra water to to store somewhere cool where it won't evaporate. Buying dried food, uh, MREs, canned goods, um, seeds and nuts that can be planted. Um, when I say dry foods, things like pasta and rice, stuff like that, beans, like all these dried foods and stuff like that. Now in the bug out scenario, what you're gonna want in a bug out scenario, what you want to do is you want to start storing extra cash or precious metals like gold and silver coins to be able to exchange in that situation because cash is going to be king in the SHTF scenario because depending on the scenario, all the you know all the money in the banks may be inaccessible either because everyone hit the banks already, so the banks were left without money, and you know once that happens, you can't the FDIC in a certain depending on how grave the situation is, maybe the FDIC can't supplant all that cash just going out of the banks, whatever. But one in a bug out scenario, you're going to want to have cash on hand and precious metals like gold and silver to exchange for say for things like lodging, for food, for bribes, those sorts of things. But your primary your go to is not going to be foraging and hunting, especially because for two reasons. One, as I said earlier, you may be in a situation in an SHTF scenario where the the local flora and fauna has been wiped out. Now that's an extreme situation, but it is a possible scenario. The local flora and fauna could be wiped out, or the flora and fauna might be tainted. Again, these are extreme scenarios, but that should register with you as well that hunting and foraging may not be your go-to thing, like your primary source of food. The second reason it shouldn't be your primary locus for sustenance is because it it may be plenty of food to gather and harvest. The problem is that depending on the scenario, foraging and hunting will give away your whereabouts. So you don't want to give away your whereabouts in a certain situation in which you want to keep yourself hidden. So that's the problem as well. You don't want to give away your location by hunting and foraging. So like I said, the hunting and foraging is going to be for the person who's planning on living off the land in a in sort of a desperate situation. But in a situation where you're just trying to get the hell out of Dodge, you need to rely on cash or precious metals to exchange in exchange for food and lodging until you get to your until you can get to your bug in situation, whether that's a bunker, whether that's a one of those storage containers that you bought off the docks and turned it into a small alternative home, or if it's to get you to the airport with your passport so you can get the hell out of the country. those are going to be the three things you're going to do in a bug out situation. Either like I said, like the whole the whole field craft scenario where you're going to just live off the land in the woods is stupid. Especially depending on the scenario. So like I said, the first thing you're looking to do is bug in. You can't bug in, then you're gonna have to bug out. And then you bug out, one you're going to your alternative location, whether that's a bunker, a storage container, or someone else's house, or you're just getting completely out of that region, whether you gotta get out of state or you gotta get out of the country. So the hunting and foraging is going to be your last scenario. If anything, you might want to go fishing. So you might want to uh, pack a fishing rod in your bug out bag if you plan on doing that. You know a fishing line and one of those mini fishing rods might be a good thing to have. You fishing is going to be less of a situation than shooting guns and letting everyone know that you have supplies. Anyone who has guns has supplies, right? So you don't want to let people know, hey, this guy got firearms. When he goes to sleep, we're gonna take his food and we're gonna take his weapons, right? So you don't want to be hunting in the woods where you're giving off your location and letting people know that you have supplies by shooting off loud bang bangs. Fishing, yeah, you might want to go fishing, but again, you're more than likely going to just be traveling to the next town, to the next state, or whatever, and you're going to be relying on having cash on hand, not having bows or guns. So, um, I guess as I remember in the COVID season, the government told us to take out money just in case. Well, yeah, I mean, even before, I mean, even before the pandemic, people have been telling Americans for the past 50 years that you should have emergency funds. Most The problem is most people can't afford to have an account where they have emergency funds. But ideally, everyone should have uh, some sort of account not readily accessible to them, like a checking account, where they have their emergency funds a in case of a financial in case they find themselves in a dire financial situation. Usually, any people say anywhere from like six, you should have enough to last you 6 months to a year to cover all your bills, right? But that's sort of a different situation than talking about a bug out scenario. That's just a part of financial planning because you might need to hit those emergency funds if you're out of work for longer than 6 months to a year. So you need to be able to still pay your bills, still buy your food for 6 months to a year that you're out of work, right? So that's why you should have emergency funds. The emergency funds aren't really for a shit hits the fan scenario because likely in a SHTF scenario, the banks are probably not going to be accessible. So it's a different mindset. For SHTF scenarios, this is what the prepping community plans for. In that situation, you need to have cash on hand, not some emergency fund. Like emergency funds is like a savings account, a CD account, a money market account where you have money set up that you can tap in case of a financial in case you're in financial straits. Um, but in an SHTF scenario, you might be in financial straits, but those that sort of funds aren't going to be accessible. You need cash and precious metal saved up in a fireproof safe readily available to you in your home to get to, and in your or in your bug out in your bug out home that you plan on bugging out to. Because yeah, I think when you're bugging out to a place. You're not just bugging out saying, okay, I'm gonna go live in the woods until shit dies down, then I'm gonna go back home. Usually a bug out scenario is, hey, we need to leave home and get to an alternative place where it's safer. So like I said, I was thinking about buying silver coins. Do you know where one can buy silver coins? I mean, yeah, there's a lot of places you can buy silver coins. It's just you gotta go somewhere where you trust it. You um, um, you can go to Jason Hansen's YouTube and he gives the name of the people he deals with for his precious metals. But there are a lot of because these people have to be certified to deal with um, in precious metals. So a lot of these places that deal in a lot of these money exchange places deal in precious metals, and they will be licensed and certified to do so. Because you want to make sure that they are certified, that they are state certified. Because if not, then I wouldn't trust it if they're not state certified. Melissa's online. I got the I buy gold and silver certified, and it's always better than paper currency. Yeah, but if so, and if you do buy precious metals, I would advise people to buy it in the coins, not in the bars. Bars are harder to exchange, whereas coins are easy to exchange. And again, not to, I'm not special ops. I was never special ops. I don't want people thinking I'm like with some stolen valor type shit. I just read a lot of stuff and listen to what people say. One of the things I know some people who have been intel operatives or worked in as special operators is that sometimes they will have stitched into their clothing precious metals in case of situations where they gotta bribe someone to get out of danger or whatever. So um, that's how you have to think of it. Like this is not something you're keeping around like money. This is something like something that can be easily exchanged in a crisis. Okay. Claire says, I think Costco sells silver. Dude, is it trust? But the question is it trustworthy? Like and then if it is trustworthy, what is the amount? Is it like um so like yeah so talking about the amounts, like a good thing is like the gold eagle coins. I think those are a quarter ounce of gold. Um, then there's the silver version, and I think those are a half ounce of gold. The the coins. Again, like I said, I don't recommend the bars. The first of all, the bars are going to be hard to carry on you, and two, they're not going to be easy to exchange because they're going to be worth too much. Like you're gonna lose so much on the value trying to exchange a bar in a dire situation. So I would recommend people buy them in the coin sizes. Like, and you can get them in different weights in coins. Generally, for the gold, I've heard the quarter ounce is better for exchange purposes. Like, I think if you buy it in a half ounce or if you buy a full ounce, you you're probably going to lose value on it on the exchange. So it's probably better to get the gold in a quarter ounce and the silver probably at a half ounce. I'm guessing. Most says will go to a respected gold shop and ask. They give you tangible gold and silver stamped and certified. Yeah, like I said, a money exchange. I guess I think I need to start buying those coins. You don't have to buy them all in bulk, by the way. Like I said, just with like food and water and other bug out supplies, just buy it. Just buy them here and there as you have the cash on hand. Like you have some cash on hand. Like okay, I got a little cash. Why don't I go buy two silver ounce? Um, I mean two. two half-ounce silver coins or whatever. Um, or you might get a full, you might get a whole ounce for silver. But for the gold, I recommend quarter ounce because I think if you buy a full ounce of gold, you're not going to get a good exchange for it in a situation where you're probably going to lose a lot on the value because people are going to see it as the coins and not, you know, they're not going to understand the worth of it. So I think the quarter ounce is better. That and like just having a couple of $20 bills on you goes a long goes a long way. You have a stash of $20 bills that goes a long way because generally anywhere, even across the world, people recognize the value of American currency, which is why I recommend the American coins as well. Because when people see that it's an American backed um, precious metal, they know they know its value behind it. Joe Kinsey, what's up? He said Costco is trustworthy, but 1 ounce is like 3,400 and up right now. Nobody has money for bars right now. No, well, some rich people have money for bars. My problem is bars aren't really exchangeable in a good in a situation. Like the bars might be good for storing, like, so the bars might be good as far as like I guess as an investment, like having like a hard investment instead of like a soft investment like stock. But as far as for like having it for the purposes of exchanging, bars are horrible for that, right? I guess is what the price for a quarter ounce of silver. I don't know the current value. The value literally changes every day. It's just like you have to check like stock prices. Like the prices of precious metals changes every day as well. Just like stock and bond prices vary every day with the market, the precious metal market, the gold market, the silver market, the platinum market, the diamond market, those change every day as well. So you just have to look, Google it to find what the current value is because it wavers, um, according to the market. What I will say is usually when we're on a cusp of a financial crisis, that's when the prices of precious metals goes up, generally speaking. Carlin says in a crisis situation, a lot of people will be doing strange things to survive. Oh, indeed. A lot of people aren't prepared for crisis situations. You can just see that like on public transportation. If you ever go into a subway and you just see how people act, it's like, yeah, you just look at these people like, yeah, most of these people would be dead. And I know it's not nice to say that, but a lot of people would be dead during a crisis situation. This is why The Walking Dead was realistic when it first came out. Most people wouldn't make it in an apocalyptic scenario because they they can't think like that. Only people who can think like that are people who are trained in fieldcraft and survivalism and prepping, people who have um, combat training, stuff like that, and training in like uh, counterintelligence and stuff like that. These are the sorts of folks who are going to survive, and people who are very super wealthy. The super wealthy are always going to survive, more or less, unless it's like a health epidemic. But even still, they will know about it before we do, and they will inoculate themselves against the contagion. That's why Mark Zuckerberg already has a underground bunker in Hawaii. But anyway, um, and he's not the only billionaire who does, by the way. But anyway, uh, a lot of people aren't going to survive in this HTF scenario just by the very nature of those sort of scenarios, because most people aren't equipped to think rationally in an emergency situation. Joseph Joe Kennedy says, "Yep, you are correct." He said bars are bad for a down situation. Yeah, he said your channel is the best, but the Provident Prepper is an awesome channel for prepping. Oh, it's dude. There's way better channels for prepping and survivalism and stuff like that. I can name a bunch of them offhand. I mean, if I can remember some of them. Um, there's the what's this guy? What's the guy? The gray bearded Green Beret. I love his channel. Uh, what's the guy named Ranger Survivals and Crafts? Um, there's the guy who created the Pathfinder School. I can't remember his name, but he has his own YouTube channel, and a lot of preppers have actually gone to his Pathfinder School. I can't remember his name, but yeah, there's a ton of good YouTubers for prepping. There's and it's such a huge community. You have different types of prepping channels out there. You have urban preppers, you have the strictly fieldcraft preppers. Um, you have the guys who are concentrating on like military prepping, militia type stuff. Um, you you have the guys who you have the guys and ladies as well who concentrate on like the bug in scenarios, like telling people how to do water and food storage, how to grow your own food and raise your own livestock. There's so many channels out there for that. So you're definitely right. I would not include myself within the online prepping community just because they do like that's their whole niche. Where I just talk about this every once in a while. Like I have a video where I do my bug out bag right here, and it doesn't look like a bug out bag. And I tell everyone it's purposefully doesn't look like a bug out bag. I want it to look like just a regular college book bag. I guess it's just Google and it's 32.99 an ounce of silver. Yeah. So yeah, I'm sorry. So for silver you can get a whole ounce. Um that's good for coins. But I was saying for gold you should the quarter ounce is the most tradable value, I think. You can get higher than a quarter ounce for gold coins, but I think you'll lose value in an exchange for anything over a quarter ounce of gold. I think the quarter ounce is the best um, for for exchange value. That is, but you can get higher values if you just want to store it as part of your as part of your investment portfolio. Like I said, some people just get precious metals to for their investment portfolio. He said Dave Canterbury. Yeah, Dave Canterbury. Yep, that's exactly who I was thinking about. Thank you, Independent Liberty. That's exactly whom I was thinking about. Um, I think he was a former Army MP uh, before he started his Pathfinder school. But I like the gray bearded Green Beret too. His he has a really good channel, and he has his channel has like high like quality. It looks like something that would be on like network cable. um, so Gray Bandit. I don't know if he's made any videos recently in the last 2 years, but all his stuff is up. Most of these guys are whom I watch is where I got my ideas for making my bug out bag. Because I had been slowly building up my bug out bag for years. At first, I just had sort of like a sort of everyday carry sort of situation, and then I decided, no, I want to have like a bug out bag for like a actual scenario, especially as there were so many things going on, including the whole pandemic crap. So I think it was during the pandemic I finally convinced me I shouldn't just have like a whole EDC set up. I should actually have a bug out bag set up as well. I don't have food and water storage here just because this isn't my main home. My main home is overseas with the wife in the Philippines. Over there, I plan on setting up a bug in situation where we're going to have water and food storage. Also, I plan on getting one of those uh, solar uh, solar power generators to heat to power the house in case of a situation, which is a good thing to have in the Philippines because over there they're privy to a lot of tropical storms and earthquakes, so can quickly knock out your power source. And just like over here, they give certain tax credits for using solar powered generators as well. So I plan on doing all that over there. Whereas here, first of all, like where I'm here, like this is like I said, this is not my permanent housing situation, and I'm not going to tell someone else how to set up their house to be more tactical. So whereas over there, that is my house with my wife, so I can make the decisions on making it safe. So and obviously that would be my bug out situation. But once I'm there, then I have to create an alternative bug out situation when I'm there for us. Um, so that would be determined. I'm already thinking that our bug out situation in the Philippines would be um, maybe some agricultural property because it's cheaper over there. So more than likely, our bug out situation would be to bug out uh, to like some farming property in the province adjacent to us. What time is it, guys? Oh, it's late. So I'm gonna probably guess maybe 10 or so more minutes. Um, and again, if anyone wants to contribute to the channel, uh, you should see it on your screen how you can give to the super chat or the super sticker. When you do the super chat, whatever comment you make will light across the screen for all of us to see. If you do a super sticker, it's going to produce some sort of image for all of us. And then you have the new way to donate to your favorite content creator, which are called gems. You should see that on your screen too. Now, when you click the gems, it's going to create like a some sort of GIF image. It's gonna be like a it's not gonna be a like the super sticker, which is like a static um, illustration. Instead, it's gonna be something that actually moves across the screen when you give a gem. And I know some people don't like donating money on the YouTube platform. Um, so they can if that's the case, they can always just go to the Cash App, which I've pinned to the screen. And the links in the description. There's also called Buy Me a Coffee. It is a link to an app that will actually allow me to um, take in money for the purposes of buying a coffee. And other people who, some of you guys have your own YouTube channels too, you can do that, utilize that as well. And it doesn't have to be just Buy Me a Coffee. The app is called Buy Me a Coffee, but you can switch it to other sorts of things that you consume. You can switch it to Buy Me a Beer or Buy Me a Slice of Pizza, something like that. For me, it is coffee because I consume it literally every day. Um, but if so if anyone wants to do that, you can buy me a coffee. The link will be in the description once I've uploaded this broadcast. But if not, you can just hit the Cash App or send me a super chat, a super sticker. If people are watching this on replay as I'm talking right now, you can send a super thanks. A super thanks is for pre-recorded videos, whereas the super chat and super sticker are only for like live um, for donating to your content creator in a live stream. But in a replay of a broadcast or in pre-recorded videos, you can donate to me through super thanks. I'm trying to remember if I've received a super. I've received super. I received super chats, super stickers, and gems. I trying to. I think I did receive a super thanks before. What's up, CJ? What's going on, man? Um, I think I did. I can't remember if I got a super thanks, but I have gotten super stickers, super chats, and the gems, because gems are truly outrageous. If you got that, it's time for you to go to bed because you're too old to be up here. If you know that gems are truly outrageous, anyone laughs, you give away your age. I'm joking. I'm joking. I don't care. He said not much. G, just doing my thing. That's what's up. I haven't seen you in a while. By the way, I don't think the music was loud enough. I don't think anyone can hear it, but I'm listening to Beethoven, one of my favorite classical composers from the Baroque period. I don't know if he's my favorite or if it's Mozart or if it's Dvorak. I mean, I like them all. I'm probably gonna say Mozart is my favorite just because that's probably the most basic thing to say is that Mozart is your favorite Baroque composer. But I like them all. Mozart, Beethoven, Bach, Chopin, Handel, Strauss, uh, Dvorak, and I'm missing a few others, but those are the ones that readily come to hand. But yeah, for like I said, so as I was talking earlier about the prepping, survivalism stuff, guys, that is something to take seriously because the FEMA here in the U.S. and I'm pretty sure the equivalents of FEMA in other countries recommend this as well. But everyone should keep a bug out bag in case of a dire situation, because in America and in like most places, um, there's like depending on where you live, there's going to be likely instances where you need to bug out, and it's not going to be like on National Geographic's Doomsday Prepper channel, that documentary where each week they showed some family thinking about stupid stuff like comets hitting the Earth, the Earth's magnetic poles flipping, a complete financial collapse all across the world. Always the most likely scenarios for you to bug out is either going to be wildfires or flooding, and that happens in a lot of places. And it's increasing because of climate change. So we've seen a lot more flooding in areas. We've seen a lot more wildfires in areas. I mean, we're constantly facing wildfires over in California, and now even on the East Coast. I mean, 2 years ago, we saw California. I mean, we saw Canada burning, and we could smell the fires of of Canada burning all the way in DC, all the way in DC. That you could smell the smoke and see the sky and see the sky um, in a different color because of the burning, because of the mass wildfires going on in parts of Canada and I think upstate New York and hundreds of miles away here in the Baltimore and DC areas. We could smell it and see the light from those fires. So it behooves people. I hate to use that word because like I'm still in the army, but yeah, it behooves people to have a bug out bag in case of those scenarios because the two likely scenarios you're going to bug out is either flooding or wildfires. Joe Kenzie says you are alone in this world if it gets bad enough. The government doesn't care about you. Watch the series while the rest of us die. The other thing is to Joe Kenzie's point, sometimes the government just gives bad advice Remember the wildfires in Hawaii 3 years ago? I think was that 3 years ago? And they told people to stay where they are. They told them to bug in, and guess what? A lot of those people died. Guess who were the ones who guess who were the people who were the safest? The people who bugged out, the people who didn't listen to the government. They say, no, and they left. They left. They got the hell out of Dodge as soon as those wildfires started. I don't even understand the Hawaiian government telling those people to stay where they are. And a wildfire is a distinct situation in which you do not want to stay where you are. It's not going to get better unless you live in a bunker or something like that. Like telling those people to stay where they were in the midst of a wildfire was a horrible, horrible advice. So if the if you are in a flooding, they told people to stay where they were during Hurricane Katrina too back in 2005. That wasn't a good idea. But I mean, I guess some of those people didn't have a place to go, and they were more worried about um, the aftermath of people roaming the streets. But during Hurricane Katrina, if you could have got the hell out of out of New Orleans, or at least out of the lowland area of New Orleans, you would have been better off. But sitting there in the epicenter of where the floods hit and not leaving, that was not a good scenario. Joe says, so you better be prepping at least a little bit. Problem is, problem is, brother, you know most people aren't prepping. Most people don't even know what prepping is. If they do, the only thing they know about prepping is that horrible show on that National Geographic. I like. Don't get me wrong. I like the series, the docu series, but at the same time, it gave the prepping community a bad name because that everyone thought that preppers were just these extremists, whereas most preppers are not that extreme and are way more rational. Like everyone's idea of a prepper now is basically a 60-year-old white man with too much time and money on his hands prepping for scenarios like alien invasions and stupid stuff like that, when the average prepper is someone who's fearing of national, where most preppers are usually, somewhere between their 30s to their middle years, may or may not have, a lot of money on hand, probably has some military or law enforcement background, and knows that they need to be cagey about natural disasters and possible uh, economic fallout from political turmoil. Um, he said, "Yep, plus that's the survivors of Hurricane Katrina. Yep, he said preppers are crazy until they're not. Right. Well, like I said, most preppers aren't as extreme as the ones they showed on Doomsday Preppers, um, 15 years ago on National Geographic. Like I said, most preppers are much more are very rational folks. Like these are people who realize that FEMA is right. That like they're not crazy when your own government through the agency of FEMA is telling people, look, FEMA is telling people everyone should have a bug out bag and everyone should have extra water and food storage in case of emergencies. That's literally what FEMA tells people year in and year out. But most people don't listen to FEMA, and then they depend on FEMA to come save them when something happens. And by the time they do get out there, it's going to be too late for the majority of people. Like they'll save some, but the majority of people are already going to be unalived. Like the best like preparation is just a rational thing to do, just like you prepare uh for financial strife by having an emergency fund set up in case of a a situation with natural disasters or maybe some sort of political turmoil. You should also have those preparations in place as well. So, Joe says, I do trust in God, but there's also wisdom. Well, I'm not a religious person, but I do know from my religious upbringing that if you are a religious person, you should know that God instilled into people the capacity for wisdom, right? So he wouldn't give us wisdom and then tell us not to use it. Right? That doesn't make sense. So you're absolutely right. So it people have to be, utilize critical thinking. Like I said, if FEMA's telling people year in and year out, prepare for natural disasters, prepare for possible turmoil, and they choose not to do so, that's on them. That's just like financial planners tell people to have emergency funds set up in case of dire situations, and many people choose not to do so. Now, some people can't afford to do it, I understand, but for the people who can afford it, there's no excuse that they shouldn't be doing it. I think. But in any case, I'm about to wrap this up, guys. It's late. I enjoyed the chat with everyone. I think Mrs. Contrarian is off probably cooking some food. So I'm about to go see what she's cooking. But until then, guys, I'll talk to you later. Thank you, Joe, for stopping by, man. If you haven't check out my bug out bag video. I filmed it as a live stream, so I'll be happy to take any sort of criticism you might have to help me improve my bag. I have made some improvements since I did that video last year, and my wife also did a video on her. She doesn't have a bug out bag, but she's a backpacker. So I told her we just had to make some minor adjustments to turn it into a bug out bag. Joseph, just watch Terminator and you'll know what's coming. AI is getting advanced. Well, before I leave, this is what I'll say about the AI thing. So I think the AI thing is overblown because a lot of people believe in AI is going to destroy us. They believe in this theory of this. They believe in a singularity theory. The single this the AI singularity is this belief that AI once AI becomes sentient, right? As a that once AI becomes sentient, it will basically turn on its masters and try to undermine us and destroy us. But more than likely, if AI ever did become sentient, um, number one is that it would realize that it needs us for our labor, sort of like in the Matrix. In the Matrix, the original idea was not that it would they would keep us alive as batteries because that doesn't make sense because it actually it actually it actually takes more energy to keep people alive and well fed than it would be to use us as a sort of a hive mind a what do you call it a neural network. So more the original idea was is to keep all the humans were kept together as a neural network for the machines, which would make more sense. And but to keep us as a source of energy didn't make sense because it costs more energy to keep billions of people alive than the energy they would produce. But anyway, whether as an energy source or as a neural network, either way, a sentient AI would realize that they would still need us as some sort of labor force. But the other problem, the bigger problem is the fact that I don't think we will ever reach an AI singularity for the very fact that we still are incapable of creating strong some sort of that would have to get into a longer talk about cognitive science and philosophy of why strong AI is not really a viable thing right now because they're they're still very they're still very basic problems with trying to create strong AI. So anyway, but your point is still salient though, right? That we people should prep for unlikely, like for un not unlikely, very unsavory scenarios, SHTF scenarios where it might be political turmoil, it might be natural disasters that could lead you to undermining your whole way of life. So you're right about that. He said, but governments and military would love a weaponized version of AI. Oh yeah, they would definitely love a weaponized version of AI. That's why a lot of research in in artificial intelligence is done through government and military research and development. There's a lot of R&D, like DARPA and stuff like that goes into that sort of thing. But like I said, they still have to. There's still a very basic problem. So I'll spill it to you if you're interested. So the basic problem with why we can't get to a strong AI and why singularity is more of a myth than an eventual reality is that there's a type of reasoning that only humans are capable of, and we cannot replicate it through machine intelligence. It's called abductive reasoning or reasoning to the best inference and stuff like that. It's something that we do all the time, every day. That this is just a basic thing that humans can do, but it cannot be programmed because the problem with abductive inference or what's called uh, the reasoning to the best explanation is that it takes a set of premises, but the premises don't logically lead to the conclusion. Like there is some sort of logical jump from the premises to the conclusion that we can easily teach people to do, but we can't explain how it's done. And if we can't explain how it's done, we can't replicate it in machines through machine learning. And it's called the human AI problem, which is known well in cognitive science and AI research and in philosophy of mind. Until they find a way to do that, um, we'll never have strong AI because we'll never get machines to think like humans. And until we get past that human AI problem, we can't have strong AI. And if there's no strong AI, we cannot get to AI singularity. And even if we do somehow get to a point where we discover how abductive reasoning is done and can program it in formal language algorithms, that still doesn't necessarily mean that we can create that will lead to uh, sentient sentient artificial life forms. That's still it would still be a leap from strong AI to saying that we can create these machines to become sentient on their own. So I don't think we have any. I don't think we should fear the singularity anytime in the next thousands of years. What's up, Jay? He said that makes a lot of sense. Thank you. Oh, cool. I'm glad someone understood. I was trying to use as little jargon as possible to explain it. But like eh, we have different forms of reasoning. Like everyone knows deductive reasoning, which is like math, logic, right? Then we have inductive reasoning, which is the kind of reasoning we often use in in like science and stuff like that. Uh, and then we have statistical reasoning. Um, but abductive reasoning is the least understood of those types of inferences. And until we understand it better, it won't lead to any technological improvements because it always starts with the philosophers. The philosophers give the understanding, which leads to the science, which leads to the technology, which leads to the military, right? So it starts with the philosophers. Until the philosophers discover how abductive reasoning is actually done, it won't be programmable. And if it's not programmable, we can't have strong AI. And if we can't have strong AI, we can't have an AI singularity. So he said AI is telling you to say that. Oh, just kidding. AI is not telling me to say. No, just play. I'm just. I'm playing. Does not compute. Does not compute. I'm playing. I wish I was that clever. He says sentient AI and the singularity are just crazy concepts, but that's true. Yeah, it's this is the sort of things made up by people who have too much time on their hands. Like most philosophers don't take it seriously because we just see it as like the 21st version of of religious arguments that have been debunked hundreds of years ago. It's like now you just replace um, theological deities with artificial intelligent deities. So it's the same argument dressed up in the new in the 21st century wardrobe. But yeah, but aside from that, people still should still be prepping. Like I said, you don't have to be some insane prepper, but hey, just buy a bug out bag. I mean, if people are really lazy, you can literally just buy them at Walmart or on Amazon. Like Amazon and Walmart have pre-made bug out bags. I don't recommend them because usually the quality of the products they use are kind of cheap. But for like the lazy person who just wants a bug out bag just to say they have one, you can easily buy a pre-made bug out bag at Walmart or Amazon if people want to do that. But it's probably better just to make one yourself. Just go, go to one of your favorite outdoor sports, like sporting goods stores, get a good get a good backpack and um start a list of stuff that you will want and need in that bag. That would be good. And then for food and water storage, again, that's easy. That's stuff you can buy, easily be had at these sporting goods stores and at the supermarket. And you can just tick these things off as you have money to buy them. Like, hey, let me get a extra, let me get a little bit more water. Let me get some, let me get some seeds. Let me get some meals ready to eat. Let me get, let me get all this pasta. Let me get these extra things of pasta. Um, you know, let me get some of these canned goods and other non-perishables, stuff like that. Joe says ChatGPT or whatever is kind of crazy though. It makes me look smart on my emails. Yeah, it's making stupid college students seem clever too. I know college professors hate it. I know if I because I almost became a college professor. I know if I was a college professor, I would hate ChatGPT. I think like every month on Instagram, you see a professor wigging out because they find some they find some student using some sort of software during their lectures instead of taking notes. And instead of taking notes, they have note taking software that does it for them. And he's like, no, you don't. And the reason they get mad is because usually they are outlined in the syllabus. Don't use these don't use these software because some of them they know the names of them. Whether it's ChatGPT and all other sorts of there's actually like note taking apps and software out there that you can turn on during a lecture and it takes your notes for you, which doesn't help the learning process for the person because part of learning the the information is that you're actively listening and taking notes, whether you're writing them down or you're typing them. Although writing them and actually writing them out actually does more for memory retention than typing them out. But yeah, ChatGPT is going to be more of a problem as it goes along. So what's going to happen is that both both the office and both academia is going to have to learn how to live with employees and students using these tools. That's the only I mean, they're just going to have to adapt to that just like back in like I guess what the 60s, 70s and 80s when people would bring the little micro cassettes to class and tape their lectures. I even did this in the early 2000s. I would tape, and most professors didn't have a problem with it. They say as long as it's for my studying purposes and that we don't use it to like sell to other people. Like it's like so you aren't trying to use the content of the lectures either to profit off of it or to give to other people, then it's fine. And so I think that's going to eventually what's going to happen with note taking software and stuff like that, that they're going to have to yield and say that these people can use this sort of software. But one or two things is probably going to happen. One is either that they're going to put a lot of restrictions on how the software can be utilized during uh, for the purpose of coursework, or or in addition to that, they're going to increase the load of work that you're going to have to do now, because they now know that you can handle a lot of that coming at you through the software. So these students may be inadvertently increasing the course load that they're going to have to consume by using this software. So Jason is actually so true. He said that AI is similar to what people fear with a different mask is crazy. Yep, exactly. He said true. ChatGPT in the beginning was advertised as something college students use to help themselves get good grades. Yeah, but now most professors are hip to it. Even on the even on this even even in grade school now, like teachers know about this. And the problem with whether you're talking about ChatGPT or Google Gemini, Open AI, or any of these other sorts of platforms, their language, see, these are language learning algorithms. And the issue with that is language learning algorithms aren't made to churn out. They're not. They're not. They weren't developed for the purposes of turning out uh, true statements. They, as language learning algorithms, they the algorithm improves by being able to gather more information accurately. That doesn't mean that the information they give you is going to be true. And that's where people have this is why people are still going to need to have critical thinking skills and to acquire knowledge independently of ChatGPT and Google Gemini, because you're going to still have you you're still going to have to make a judgment call on whether the information being given to you is true or not. I When I use Google Gemini, I will frequently correct it, saying, "No, this information you gave me is wrong," and it can go into its source and say, "Oh yeah, actually you are right. I made a mistake." But you won't know that unless you already have that background knowledge. So when I'm questioning Google Gemini on something on which I already have information, say something in philosophy, something in psychology, something in martial arts, um, or whatever, or even comic books, because I'm that sort of nerd, and it turns out something that's false, I will tell Google Gemini, actually that's incorrect because X, Y, and Z, and it will correct itself. They say, "Oh yeah, you are right. Sorry for providing misinformation." And it, but again, the problem with these language learning algorithms like ChatGPT and other AI um, and other sorts of generative AI programs is that as language learning models, they're just good. They be they learn by just being better to acquire information and churn it out to you. But they're not developed necessarily to churn out information to you that is true. So you're still going to have to think for yourself, and that's what most people aren't. That's the fear now, is that most people are just going to rely on whatever ChatGPT or Google Gemini churns out to them without knowing, the without having the critical thinking skills to know that this stuff, whether this stuff is true or not. Jason, is true. I noticed that too when I've used it for even simple requests. Yeah, like you'll you'll ask something simple that you know about. So that's how you know is it doesn't give you accurate information. It doesn't necessarily turn out true statements. It's just good at assessing a wide breadth of information very quickly. Whether that information is true or not is is not really what is made to do. This is why all the language translation apps are so bad, because the language translation apps work by more people using it so they can acquire a larger database in which they churn out information, but that information isn't always accurate. Try to use Google Translate to translate Chinese, and you'll quickly see how ineffective it is. It's very good at giving like is going to be very useful in translating things, but those translations are not going to necessarily be accurate. They're not. I mean, it used to be a open. It used to be a running joke to use Google Translate to translate like Chinese or Japanese or something like that because it was just so horrible at it. Now, as a language learning model, it gets better at doing so because as it gets a larger database, it has more access to accurate information out there. But that's not necessarily what it was built to do. Is produce true um, true translations. It was just the language learning model just becomes better at gathering that information to turn out to you. But to be fair, there are better translation apps than Google Translate. So this is why the human mind is still better than artificial intelligence, because our, our minds actually evolved to be truth evaluation. The reason why our minds evolved for truth evaluation is because it was necessary for survival. It's not necessary for the survival of artificial intelligence to churn out true statements. Whereas the human mind literally evolved for that purpose, to be truth evaluators. So, human mind one, computer zero. Joe says, I have 14 years of education. I graduated the seventh grade twice. Wait, what? I don't know if that means you were set back or not, but hey, bro, I'm not judging anyone. Look, we all have our journey. Carlin says a lot of people depend on AI because thinking for yourself is overrated. Yeah, no. Well, thinking for yourself is overrated if you are a poor thinker. The good thing about critical thinking skills is that it's something that most people can become better at doing. Critical thinking, uh, uh, unlike unlike general intelligence, is not something that is um, it's not like a behavioral trait that is hereditary. There is a little bit of heredity. There's a little bit of heredity to rationality or critical thinking, but is very modest compared to general intelligence. General intelligence is like the majority of it is hereditary, and it goes up as you age. Like as you become older, your general intelligence is 80% hereditary, which is why you become like your parents as you get older. Personality traits and general intelligence are highly hereditary. But rationality is not. There is some hereditary basis to it, but that's not saying much because anyone who knows anyone who knows about behavioral research knows in the field of in the field of behavioral genetics, there's one of the laws of behavioral excuse me, sorry for stuttering. The basic law of behavioral genetics is that all human traits are hereditary, but that doesn't mean that is largely hereditary. A lot of it can still be based on nurture or just plain genetic luck. So, um, Joe says, "LOL, bad joke." No, I knew you were joking, man. This is funny because you said seventh grade twice. I was like, I get it. You 14. I got it. Like you repeated all that twice. I got it the first time. But it was just funny. Jay says, "Thanks for the talk. Of some very interesting stuff. Appreciate it, man." Clara says, "ChatGPT will openly tell you it prioritizes speed over accuracy." Okay, then that's fair. Like if those learning models at least are upfront about that, then I don't have a problem with it. My problem is people will ignore that fact and still use it as if it's a source of knowledge, and it's not. They should be used as a they should be used in conjunction with traditional learning tools, not as a replacement of traditional learning tools. But too many people are going to use that as a shortcut, and people in it's going to be easier to catch in like the humanities. So score one for the humanities, which people like to shit on in college, but it's going to be easier to catch someone using ChatGPT in the humanities because it's going to be easier to tell that something was written by an AI than not from a person. When you have to when you have to turn in a paper, when you have to turn in a paper, it's going to have your own. When you write your own papers, it's always going to have your own voice in it, right? Even if regardless of whether you're using, you know, um, Chicago style, whether you're using APA style, whether it doesn't matter. Whatever style writing style that you're using to do your papers, it's always going to have your voice in it. But if something comes off as very cold and like it it's easily readable by a professor. They're gonna know this was not written by you. This was written by AI. And just like ChatGPT, Google Gemini does the same thing. It will tell you in the search results that it is a language learning model, which is what they are. All these generative AI programs are are language learning um, are language learning model algorithms because being a nerd, I was a triple major. My third major was linguistics, so I I know how it uses syntactic rules can be used to create AI in a very basic sense, like just using like these sort of things like syntactic trees and all that sort of stuff. And anyway, we won't need to delve into all of that stuff, like computational linguistics. But basically, these language learning models are using computational linguistics. So you too, my race says cap nurture is greater than nature. No, that's wrong. First of all, it depends on what we're talking about. So you can't just say nurture is greater than nature or nature is greater than nurture. There is a feedback loop between them, right? So just why often in behavioral research we talk about the biopsychosocial integration, right? most most people in the in the behavioral and social sciences are believe call themselves interactionists. Like we believe that there's a constant interaction between nature and nurture. So it's a false dilemma to choose one over the other. They one one feeds on the other. And on top of that, sometimes it can be neither. That's another thing. Like so for intelligence, let's say for example, like 51% of general intelligence is due to heredity, your genetic makeup. So that will lead you to think that the other 49% is due to nurture. That's not actually true. So, the, so when you're looking at nature versus like genetics versus environment, So yeah, heredity refers to like basically your genetic makeup, and like I said, it's 51% of it of general intelligence, as well as like personality traits is due to your hereditary makeup. And like I said, as you get older, that ratio actually increases up to 80%. So you would say, okay, so the 49 other percent must be due to the environment. That's actually not true. So the other parts of it are still biological. It's just not genetic. So you have things due to like, uh, you know, your prenatal and postnatal conditions, right? Um, and other biological things, but because it's not strictly genetic, it's considered on the nurture side, not on the nature side. Then what most people think as the environment or nurture, they're thinking of childhood upbringing. When you look at childhood upbringing, that only accounts for about um, I'm gonna be generous and say about what 10%. So if if your genetic makeup makes up like 51% of general intelligence, and then maybe 2% is accounted for other biological variables. And then childhood upbringing only accounts for 10%. And it's actually less than that. I'm just giving a round figure for you guys to make it more easy. Then the rest of it, you know what that's due to? Random chance. Yes, random chance makes up the bulk of that, not childhood upbringing. That doesn't mean that it doesn't matter what your childhood upbringing is. It certainly does. But that is not when people think that how they can improve too much of what goes into certain social political conversations delves around social engineering. And the problem with social engineering is one that is unlikely to work because childhood upbringing accounts for so little of who we end up being as adults. So anyway, Bay says, brother, what is your favorite cheese type? Last guy said Gouda. You seem like you have a classy one. I don't even like cheese, brother. Like I eat pizza, so I eat mozzarella, but I don't even like cheese. But anyway, I'm going to bed, guys. Jason, hope you have an amazing night. Thank you, guys. Thank you for letting me nerd out. I'm talking about prepping, talking about uh, talking about behavior research, talking about philosophy, talking about AI, um, and all sorts of random stuff. This was a great chat. Hope you guys come back. Take care. Have a good day or a good night, depending on where you are in the world.